Lighting is the backbone of a bearded dragon's backbone. Ooh, beardie. Let's not make more of these, but maybe next time during the evil herp arc. But don't worry, by the end of this video, you'll know how to keep your bearded dragon strong, healthy, and free of mushy bones, because no honey packet will stiffen this lizard up. And the products I use will not break the bank. I'll link them in the description. They're affiliate links because I'm broke. Please use them before I start threatening you. Enclosures are best when broken into 3 temperature sections. During the day, you have the hot spot, about a 1 square foot section for sunbathing, the warm section, which is just a byproduct of the hot spot, it doesn't really matter, and the cool section, far away from the hot spot, that lets your dragon cool down like a fresh hot pocket. It's also a great place to offer food, water, and a place to hide away or climb. And at night, the whole enclosure can drop in temperature and just average out. Starting with the hot spot for 10 to 12 hours per day. Beardies love to climb, especially trees out in the Australian bush, and so offering some branches that reach upward towards the light work pretty well. I cut down a couple dead trees in my yard, but cork bark, which is found online or at reptile expos, or paving stones work as well, which is also nice because it absorbs extra heat. If you do use wood, reptiles are allergic to a lot of trees for some reason. They've been around for 300 million years and are allergic to wood, of all things. So as a rule of thumb, avoid evergreens, while deciduous trees are generally fine. So like maple, oak, basically just hardwoods. I stick my wood in a container. It could have written that better. I shove my wood in a container with water and some amount of bleach. I don't really measure it. I just dump it in like you're trying to cover the tracks of a heinous crime. I let it soak for 1 day, rinse it a couple times, fill it with just water, soak for another day or 2, then let them dry off in the sun for another day or 2. And yes, it takes like half a week to a week, and having a zoomer attention span does make me want to rush the process, but this eliminates the concern of pests or bacteria squatting in your reptile enclosure. Some people bake wood in the oven, but I ain't trying to run up my energy bill any more than I already have, so yeah. And for paving stones, I buy them from Home Depot, and that's it. I put them in the enclosure. However, it does get a shake test to ensure my bearded dragon doesn't get crushed in the case of a miniature 9/11 attack. Although I built a surface that has to be climbed up to access the heat, you can absolutely do the opposite. Say a flat basking surface, even if on the ground is okay, and then climbing features away from the heat. I just find it easier to place the heating elements this way, but it's kind of subjective, and you can just pick your favorite layout. Okay, now it's actual heating time. For bearded dragons, the cheap Zoomed reptile heat bulbs, like this one specifically, they work totally fine. But other options include Arcadia's halogen flood lamps, Exoterra's mercury vapor bulb, or Zoomed's metal halide solar glow lamps. Each bulb has its pros and cons, but they all offer what bearded dragons want. Infrared A, which is the wavelength that penetrates their skin. Compare this to heating sources that only provide infrared C, like ceramic heat emitters, that wasn't funny, or radiant heat panels. Both of these do create heat, but they kind of just warm up the air. It's better than nothing, but sadly, if you are using one of these options, I gotta tell you that you're a stupid little chud. Not really, but I actually think you're really cool and awesome, and I want to hang out with you and be your best friend. But I do urge you to maybe possibly switch it out, please. I'm not very confrontational, so I'm just trying to respectfully urge you, please. Thank you. Don't throw it away though, because we may have a use for the ceramic heat emitters or radiant heat panels later in the video. Also, aside from the Arcadia one, all of these bulbs create UVA, which is different from UVB, which we'll get to shortly. We're getting to a lot shortly, just bear with me. UVA allows reptiles to see colors that we can't. They got crazy eyes. There's 4 cones in those babies. Our eyes only have 3 cones. And so if your heat bulb creates UVA, your beardie can see more color basically, and also will have an easier time locating his heat source. It's not necessary because the UVB bulb we'll get later can also do this, and also the beardie should just be attracted to the heat. Wait, is that why we call people hot? Because we're attracted to them? If you're curious to learn more about the technical side on what every bulb offers, it doesn't really matter, but you can watch this video if you care. Okay, but which wattage? Well, it's dependent on a few things, like how far it is from the hot spot, as well as your home's temperature. I want to give you an exact answer so you can just order what you need. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna kind of guess a little bit. And this is where the heat gun comes in. It's one of those tools I highly recommend. I've used this exact same heat gun for over 10 years and it's still kicking. Okay, so for me, my room stays mid to high 70s. Yes, it's hot in here. Yes, I have swamp ass. And so a 100 watt bulb about a foot away from the slate gives me just over 100 degrees, which will not give your beardie swamp ass. They can't sweat and they don't wear underwear. However, the previous owner of this guy did provide me with many outfits. Look at that. That's really something. It's inside an 8.5 inch dome rated for 150 watt bulbs. This one has a dimming feature, but I keep it at max, so it doesn't really need the dimming feature. Measuring the hotspot is about checking the temperature of the surface and not the temperature of the air. So the number to shoot for is between 105 and 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Keeping this number exact isn't something I lose sleep over. What I do lose sleep over is my subscriber count has been stagnant for a year, so please subscribe. I just want to see it go up like 1 subscriber. Beardies can also show individual temperature preferences. You may notice he avoids the hottest spot or gets as close to the bulb as he possibly can, and so you can kind of adjust accordingly. Listen to your dragon, let him train you. But ultimately, so long as he just stands there a lot and flattens out and the bulb is like yay far, it's probably fine. If your house is frigid, like a refrigerator, no way, is that why they're called refrigerators? I'm learning so much about the English language. If you live in the Arctic or your lamp is farther away from your basking spot than this, you may need 125 watts. If you're exactly after what I have, it's 100 watts. If your home is pretty warm or the basking area is closer than mine, 75 watts might be good. And if you're using a smaller enclosure like a 40 gallon, though I don't really recommend, 50 watts might be enough. But I feel like most setups need around 100 on average. They're not too expensive in the case you do have to swap it out, and it might actually be nice to have a few different wattages on hand, say if your house changes temperature throughout the year. Now, exactly what temperature the warm section in general is not really important, but using a cheap thermometer is a good way to keep tabs. And then the cool section, it's like the back of the club, the VIP lounge. I personally shoot for 75 Fahrenheit. Exactly how I achieve this is by doing nothing, just it's cooler. Yeah, because there's no heat lamp on that side. Wow. Magical. If your beardie's always hiding and not basking during the day, something is probably off. It might be too hot, he could be stressed or have an underlying illness. But with that said, I do like to supply a hiding area on the cool side as well as the warm side. Not only will he potentially utilize these at night, but he might just want to explore around or take a break from the heat on occasion. Or not, and he might bask all day too, that's okay. If he's not basking every second, don't panic. Just make sure basking is a regular part of his daily routine. Maybe stick an iPad up there and play like lizard videos so that I don't know. I'm trying to appease the younger generation of beardies here. This cool side is also measured with a little thermometer because I'm looking at air temperature instead of surface temperature the way we are for the hot spot. So the gun is not as useful for the cool side, but you can still point it for fun and pretend like you're shooting your bearded dragon in the head, I guess. At night, all the lights should get shut off and the temperatures can drop. The same way humans thrive best when we have light during the day and darkness at night, unless you're like me and recording this at 3:57 a.m. Beardies appreciate not just daylight and nighttime, but also hot days and cool nights. If the temperature changes on a 24-hour basis, their sleep will improve, they can preserve more energy when they cool down, and this cycle helps them digest food. It's like flipping your beardie's pillow to the cold side as he drifts off to sleep. So in the warm months, all I have to do is turn off the lights and it stays above 70. But if your house drops below 65 to 70 degrees, supplemental heat that does not emit light may be needed. We don't want light on them at night, even if it's red or a nighttime bulb, so we want to use heat that does not generate lighting. Your options include a ceramic heat emitter. Yeah, I said they kind of sucked before, but they're back. This is where they're actually useful because you can increase overall air temperature at night without generating light. Whoa. You can also use a deep heat projector or a radiant heat panel. I cover these more in depth in this video, but basically just pick one out. If you want me to pick for you, I vote Honestly, I'm gonna say ceramic heat emitter, just on a Reptile thermostat set to like 70 degrees. Again, most people won't need this. You can probably skip this step, but my house gets like super cold in the winter, so I do need one. I was gonna say radiant heat panel, but the thing is they're so big, it'll probably block your lighting during the day, so just go cheap ceramic heat. But these do need a thermostat, unfortunately. More money, but it's worth it. Next up, a quick section on humidity and if your enclosure is too hot. 40% is a good goal humidity for bearded dragons. Too much drier, say below 30%, and you might have trouble shedding. Too much moisture, like 60% or above, and there's a risk of infection or scale rot. My home's humidity is 50%. The heat bulb dries up moisture during the day, so it's lower, and then it rises a bit at night, back up to the 50s, which is fine. But if your enclosure is constantly sitting at 60% or above, which can be measured with the same little device as the heat, it also shows the humidity on here. First, I would move the water bowl, if provided one, as far from the heating source as possible to reduce evaporation. If you're using a loose substrate, which I covered in a previous video, make sure it's not moist. Dry it out and do what you can to prevent water spills, but also consider picking up a little fan, like what's used in computers. You can get them off Amazon for 10 bucks with a USB connector. In fact, even if your humidity isn't too high, the added ventilation from pushing air around isn't a bad idea anyway. I mean, who likes stale air? This isn't required, but you can experiment with different fan levels, and it may help you fine-tune your temperature gradients, as well as just adding some circulation, like a little tiny ceiling fan. And if your whole room or house is too humid, maybe just get a dehumidifier. But if it's too dry, move the water bowl closer to the heat source. It'll evaporate and create more humidity. Or give your enclosure the occasional misting. Your beardie might even lick up some of these water droplets. And if you're using a loose substrate and it's like bone dry, you could add a little bit of water, just a tiny amount. We definitely don't want damp substrate under a bearded dragon, as this may rot their scales or let fungus grow. Yucky. Now the second element is arguably more important than everything we just covered. I mean, they're both important, but luckily it's a much quicker explanation and even simpler selection. Ultraviolet B, UVB. It causes a chemical reaction in animals, including us. Sun emits UVB, which hits our skin. Our skin creates vitamin D. Vitamin D lets our bodies process calcium. Calcium comes from our diet, which is good for your bones. For humans, just a few hours of sunlight per week is usually enough. I know a lot of you aren't even getting a few hours. You freaking neat, go outside. That was rude. Some of you might just not be able to go outside. And for that, I am sorry for being mean to you. But bearded dragons who don't experience this whole UVB to calcium cycle will be permanently deformed. For an adult bearded dragon, a few days without UVB it's whatever. Doesn't really matter. Like, if you're moving cross country, don't worry about it. He'll be fine. Or if your bulb dies, don't have a panic attack. Like, you can wait for Amazon shipping for a new one. Even a couple weeks, maybe okay. For baby bearded dragons though, it's even faster. They grow so rapidly and are so sensitive to husbandry issues that even very short stints of errors can cause lifelong problems. So if I got a baby beardie and I didn't have UVB, I would be zooming like Sonic speed to the nearest pet store. It's not as bad as like taking a pet fish out of water and then just like seeing how long he can live without water. But it's not the farthest thing away from that. Babies need UVB real bad. I might even put one over my future baby's like crib, just to be safe. A lack of adequate lighting will affect them at any age, and it's pretty irreversible. But I did personally see improvement on bearded dragons who went from no UVB to daily UVB with us. After a few months, some actually regained parts of their mobility, which was not like life-changing, but it did improve, which was pretty cool. So now that I've instilled the fear, here are 4 things we're going to pay attention to when adding UVB. How much enclosure it covers, the strength of the bulb, how far it is from the dragon, and the age of the bulb. This is probably the most technical stuff yet. Maybe pause real quick, get a little snack, a little recess, we could do an intermission. How's your day going? What you been up to? Okay, coverage. Cover as much enclosure as possible. In a lot of these shots, the UVB has been slightly obstructed by the screen lid. Putting UVB inside the enclosure is even better. Permanently mounted, kind of like a ceiling light. UVB coils do emit the appropriate rays, but it's just not that much. It covers a very small area, and unfortunately I can tell you from first-hand experience, they will not prevent metabolic bone disease, which is what the funky bones are called. As a teenager, I used this style on a turtle that I caught in my backyard, which would have had a much better life had I gotten a tube variation. Or even better, if I had just left the turtle in the backyard where it freaking belongs. Strength. UVB bulbs have varying numbers on them. I'm using the Arcadia Dragon bulb, literally specifically made for bearded dragons. 14% of the light it emits is UVB, compared to 12% or 7% on others. More is better for bearded dragons, and so this one's perfect, but the ZoomEd 10.0 works as well. This is 10% UVB. 5 to 6% is better than nothing, but there just aren't any downsides to going with 10 to 14, so highly recommend. Distance is dependent on the percentage you buy. Glass and plastic lids will inhibit rays from penetrating your dragon's skin. So if you have one of those aquarium lids, the UVB is not going to get through. So at most, a screen is the only thing you want in between your light and your dragon. The best way, albeit expensive way, is to measure this with a solar meter. They're $250, but it's guaranteed peace of mind. You can literally check any location in the enclosure and see exactly where it falls. Is it the appropriate zone for your bearded dragon? It's not a matter of wondering, you can literally just check, which is pretty cool. But a rule of thumb is between 1 to 2 feet away from your bearded dragon. On a 4x2x2 foot enclosure like this, the Phalo Zoo, you can get 10% off with my link in the description, code HERP10. It's very good, my favorite actually. They're calling it the best enclosure of all time, or so I hear. Source, I said that, because it is. The interior placement is probably your best bet on a 4x2, but on smaller enclosures, on top of the screen is likely more fitting, so it's not like right up against your beardie. And finally, age. Even if these bulbs still emit light, the UVB literally runs out, which sucks. And you can't tell when it runs out, unless you use a solar meter, or more simply, just replace it on a usual basis. It's like an annual subscription to light bulbs. I know, we live in a subscription society. Arcadia Dragon bulbs and ZoomEd T5 10.0s should be replaced at minimum once every 12 months. Some owners do every 6 to 9 months to play it super safe. 6 feels like overkill to me, so I don't know, maybe 10 or 11. I'm negotiating here. How about 10 and a half? Set a reminder on your calendar for 10 and a half months from now. The fixture lasts forever, so you just have to replace the bulb inside it. As a final note on lighting, more light in general is better for beardies. If your room is dark or your enclosure has solid black walls on like all the sides, it doesn't hurt to add even more light. It doesn't have to be fancy, it could just be an LED bulb and any sort of fixture, just to brighten the enclosure up even more. Not required, but just something to think about. And so to overview heating, get a light bulb that ideally offers infrared A, IR-A, between 50 to 125 watts, probably around 100. Put it in a dome, place it over a basking spot, shoot for around 110 degrees Fahrenheit using a heat gun, and make sure the enclosure has a cooler area of around 75 degrees. And to overview lighting, more light is better. For UVB, you have 2 popular brand options. 10 to 14% is ideal. Keep it pretty close to the dragon and replace it about once a year. If you do this, you will have one strong and happy bearded dragon. If you don't know what enclosure to get, I got you. Phalo Zoo PVC, they're linked in the description. There is more to keeping your beardie healthy, and so I'll link my bearded dragon playlist in the description. Thanks for watching.